Great, we're going to continue our meeting, and we had a couple of other questions, but I can't remember. Representative Morris.
Madam Chair. So the difference between a 1 acre and a 10 acre, what would make this process easier? Recommendations. I didn't see any recommendations.
That's right. Yeah. So that's a great question. And we're certainly, we're starting this process to share our recommendations with, both the Agency of Natural Resources, the Natural Resources Board, and other interested parties. And so we do have some draft language that would provide a very narrow exemption from Act 250 for these types of projects, which would allow us to have sort of the same treatment for all of our distribution line rebuilds that are focused on reliability. I just want to give folks an opportunity to provide any edits or feedback, but I would follow up with the committee with that language once folks have had a chance to review that and offer any suggested changes. So that would be our ask and offer as a solution that might be something that would allow us to get this work done following all the best management practices and all of our other work that we have to do and are happy to do in that space, and really allow us to build these in a much more timely fashion.
Madam Chair, is there anything in this, do we have any jurisdiction over this from this committee, or
Title 10, if it's Title 10, we would, yeah.
And it's energy.
Yeah.
And it's energy. There you go, both. Yes is the answer. Representative Sibilia.
Yeah, just while we have you here and thinking about increasing intensity of storms, are there other things that the legislature should be thinking about that you are doing that we should know about to keep the lights on?
Sure. I mean, we touched on it a little bit in terms of the other side of this work and all of what we're working on includes a lot of focus on home battery storage, also resiliency zones, which are areas that we have worked with communities after looking through a variety of different indicators, data, the social vulnerability index provided by the CDC, connection from a telecom or phone service perspective. We've kind of looked at all of our towns and found the ones that ranked pretty high in terms of these various risk factors. Have been working with the towns of Brattleboro, Grafton, and Rochester to really target some solutions that will hopefully maintain their power in sort of downtown areas or in key community areas. So for example, in the town of Brattleboro, we're working with a mobile home park there to provide a large scale battery that will help keep that area powered up. In the town of Rochester, we're focusing on a solar plus storage microgrid. And in the town of Grafton, we're actually focusing on folks that are furthest away from the substation there and experience a good amount of outages and working with them to provide home battery backup. So that's a really exciting thing that is, I think, replicable. And we're looking forward to working with the next round of towns on all of that work as well. But we're always happy to talk about any of that anytime, because there's a lot of really exciting stuff that we're I don't know if there's anything else that comes to mind for you.
Infrastructure funds.
Yeah, that's true.
If there's anything that infrastructure funds fund, it's less that our customers have to fund. So
Yep.
I know that we had a group committee putting out recommendations for that.
Mhm.
Candace actually led that. So
Last year, yeah.
there's that too. And then I just think an awareness and of the weather and how the wind you were talking about, we had predictions of 45 at the summit and maybe 40 at 1,500 feet. We got mid 50s all the way down to the Connecticut River. So just even the forecast and what's actually happening is changing so much. And I think the models just aren't keeping up with it, with how quickly things are changing. So I just an overall preparedness for the continued change in climate, I think is something that we can all think about. It's certainly why we're here. And thinking of the actual infrastructure, this would go a long way. It would go a long way. We've built these lines in 10-acre towns. I don't know if anyone here lives near the Appalachian Gap. We rebuilt, storm hardened the line literally from Bristol substation all the way up to Jerusalem store They used to have similar type of reliability issues just based on where they were. And literally, that's not a place we worry about anymore. You mentioned Wardsboro. We have projects for Route 30 all the way from Jamaica back to Brattleboro. Wardsboro taps right out of the center of that. We have a project with the same type of construction going all the way up into the village of Wardsboro. This would really change things, and anything you can do to support to allow us to get that done would really change things for everybody. And we have plans all over the state for that type of construction. It's just right now, that's where we're seeing the most damage, and that's where we want to act.
Any other barriers to being able to move quickly that we should be thinking about? Do you have the resources that you need? Do you feel like you're being held back in other ways besides this?
We have already been planning on how to ramp up to get these done. And there is resources that can come in and help project manage this to make sure we're doing it absolutely as efficiently as we can and get it done. So we haven't run into anything like that as of yet. Certainly with all the broadband work and resiliency work going on, we'll see. We haven't seen that yet. We've had the available help we've needed.
I think supply chain remains just a general observation, right? I think we've worked really hard to get what we need to get here for this type of work, but it remains just I think a question mark for lots of different planning purposes.
That's a great point. I've actually had conversations with our manufacturers about, a lot is coming and even more is coming. The DOE currently has a grant out there to create a high-speed undergrounding system. And right now we're ahead of the curve in terms of utilities trying to take overhead lines and put them underground. But I think if that DOE grant is successful, that where we had the CHIPS Act, we may want to look at underground cable, storm hardening cable, things like that to make sure there's plenty of it to go around. That may become an issue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, members, further questions? Representative Pat, then Bongartz.
Representative Morris asked one of my questions, which is that you are in fact working and talking with various parties on actual specific language for this, basically an interim short-term proposal, and it sounds to me like this is something. If we get this language and we choose to, we have a bill in our committee that came over from the Senate at the end of last month. It's the annual and act related to miscellaneous subjects under the PUC jurisdiction or something like that, and it's very common that the two bodies add language to each other's bills, as this would be another, if we wanted to do this could be another miscellaneous item to send back to the Senate.
Representative Bongartz.
Just going back to the Act 250, I just want to understand this a little bit. When you are in, let's say, one acre town, where it's harder for you, do your applications tend to go through as minors? Will they have hearings, or do they go through as minors?
We have requested hearings, and sometimes there is hearings. I think a lot of them do go through as minors. I think it's a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
So just help me understand the time, because I've seen through Act 250 applications before, mm-hmm. and minors tend to be pretty easy. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But there's something more going on.
Yeah, so a normal Act 250 where you're building, right? Yeah. You have site control when you bought the land. The difference here is, again, we could be going 3 miles between 3 towns, and there may be 200 property owners along the way. And anywhere we need an anchor easement or anything like that, we have to get signed off easement rights and have that site control before we can even apply for the permit. So you have to get that in any event, right?
No. Oh, okay.
No, if we don't have, because if we're under just our normal best management practices and a town permit, we can actually build everything but maybe the one or two property owners that we can't seem to get the site control from. So we could build, if it's a 5-mile project, we could build 4.8 miles of it, put that into service while we continue to work with that other customer. If it's under Act 250 because of site control, and if you make a change after you turn it in, you have to go back and submit a new permit. And so that's the pre-Act 250, and then an average Act 250 permit for everything, I think, is around 77 days, we were told. Ours tend to go a little longer because of the linear versus one lot.
All right. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you all for the
Thank you.
time. Really appreciate it. We'll follow up in very short order with what the specific language looks like so folks can consider it, and we'd be happy to come back in and talk through that at that time too if helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, members, with that, we are finished with witnesses for the day. Tomorrow morning, we're going to start over with the General Housing Committee on a joint hearing in the Pavilion office building, and we'll be in room 267 at 9:15, which is when they start. So we'll see you over there then. That we're adjourned.